All right, so we're finally back with the new cast. It's been a while, quite a while, actually. We've been away since the ending of the last tournament, which was about 5 to 6 months ago. Dedicating all of my time to IRL stuff. But we're having another tournament these days, the Mr. Bones Cup, the third edition, which I believe is the eighth official Age of the Ring tournament. So yeah, I've been back for a couple of days, trying to get some practice in, see how that goes. But yeah, so we today we have a game which I was told is a pretty interesting one with some fairly unusual strats. So let's just see who's in it. So on the top right side of the map, we've got Offhand, and he's playing for the faction Gondor. Starting with 3 farms into barracks, into stables. It's kind of a meta build, but not really, because usually you would put your stables after your 4th farm, because this really hits your eco quite hard, because you need to order a first battalion of Lamedon clansmen, and with this build you're usually pretty short on cash. And on the bottom left side of the map, we've got Isirion, who's playing for the faction Rohan, and he's going for... I would say this is not a meta build in this matchup either, because he went for 3 farms for eco, 1 farm for production, as you can see, and then he put down, I'm assuming, his archery range and added his 4th farm. So why do I say that this is not a meta build? Because usually in this matchup, both players like to start with a combination of infantry as well as cavalry, because both factions have access to quite cheap and really durable cav. I mean, durable at least in the early game. Then it kind of makes sense to start with infantry as well as cavalry, and we see that pan out perfectly over here. Isirion is gonna lose his first 2 battalions without getting much value out of them. Both are going to be trampled, and Halfhand used Captain's Horn over here. I'm assuming he wanted to time it so that both the infantry and the cavalry, the Ithilliens riders, would be buffed by it. But I think probably due to off host, it didn't really affect the Ithilien. I don't really know who the host is in this game, but it doesn't really matter either. I mean, it does matter, of course, but I don't want to show it to you, because usually that's a pretty big advantage and might be a bit of a spoiler on who wins this, unless they have a neutral host. Anyway, so yeah, over here we see that Isirion is taking up into, well, technically not taking up, but just taking into a stables, because that's not really a tech up. That's the standard build that Rohan has in the beginning of the game. And yeah, so Halfhand is adding his 2nd battalion of Ithilien. Now, I would like to mention that you're like, the 2nd battalion is fine, but I definitely wouldn't go for the 3rd battalion, because usually what Rohan does in this matchup is go for an early Elfhelm, which is obviously which is obviously a horse archer hero, and any kind of ranged hero, be it a horse archer or not, is obviously very good at dealing with cav, especially tier 1 cav, which Ithilien are. But yeah, as we can see, Isirion's initial build didn't really pan out. He's on the back foot right now. Halfhand is destroying his farms, and he can't really, fight with Lamedons with pikes. They're gonna get absolutely destroyed. Although he's got, yeoman archer support in the backline trying to take down the pikes, I'm assuming. But yeah, that's exactly what happens. Isirion, in a clever manner, goes for Elfhelm to counter the Ithilien riders. And you can see that Halfhand has added his 2nd barracks, a decent choice in this matchup. Let me just check if I'm recording. Yes, indeed. But yeah, so let's see. So Elfhelm is already almost level 3 by killing, all of these cheap cavalry units. And Elfhelm himself doesn't really cost a lot, which means that he will level up quite quickly. And he's got really nice buffs and leadership. both on infantry as well as cavalry. Yeah, really nice hero to have. Pretty central to any Rohan composition. Really unlucky here for Isirion. His Horsemen of the Mark are running straight into win here pikemen. But yeah, I generally like Halfhand's build, with the exception of a few minor details. But this is exactly how you would like to play this matchup, with infantry. Infantry being your main damage dealer, and them being supported by cavalry, and without archers. You don't really need starting archers for either faction, I would say, in this matchup. So yeah, Elfhelm. So Isirion dismounted Elfhelm, just to be safe with him, so that he doesn't really accidentally run into pikes. I would say that's a good decision as well. And he's building his first well over here to get the replenishment on the Horsemen of the Mark going. But yeah, he's in a tough position, I would say. He's gonna lose. He lost his, eco farm over here, loses production farm over here. On the brighter side, Elfhelm, an early Elfhelm is gaining levels, so he's gonna unlock his buffs and leaderships sooner. And Hoffman doesn't really have a hero yet, and I believe he doesn't really have the Fortress banners purchased either. So that means that he's not really going for a hero just yet. But yeah, it's gonna creep over here. So yeah, I forgot to talk about the map. This is Tower Orthon, which is like a northern themed map, which you have already, deduced, I would assume. We've got these polar bears over here. We've got ward creeps, kind of like, I should say technically these are white wolf creeps, but they're very similar to ordinary wargs, meaning that the most efficient way of creeping them is with pikes. We've got one near each base. On the bottom side, it's somewhere over here near this lake. And we've got trolls near the corners who are protecting the inn. The inn unit here for good factions are archers. And for evil factions, I can't really remember. And besides that, we've also got this nice little camp of like northern tribal people with their huskies and whatever. But yeah, it looks quite nice. Okay, so Elfhelm has switched to sword mode and has mounted once again. Isirion has mounted him on his horse. And together with Horsemen of the Mark, I'm assuming they're going to be on time, in time rather, to take this farm out. Yeah, and he needs to retreat immediately, which is exactly what he does. And he also uses Elfhelm's buff here to grant cavalry 15% 15% speed and 25 damage. Oh no, 25 damage against machines. Huh. I hadn't really noticed that. I have to check on how that works against machines. So does that mean like siege machines? Anyway, Halfhand is continuing to harass over here, and we've got a pretty big engagement in the center of the map. He's got an early Mary. That's very interesting. Mary is kind of like... we can also see that Boromir... Halfhand has got his first hero on the field, which is Boromir, and I believe he has purchased Boromir without going for Fortress banners, which is really interesting. I wonder why he would do that. But yeah, so Mary, really underappreciated hero. His ultimate ability debuffs hero armor by 33%, which is quite big for a hero. That's a huge debuff of armor. So yeah, Halfhand did add a 3rd battalion of Penethkellen, but I don't really think he needed that because these guys are like easily countered by Elfhelm at this point of the game. What I would do here is, and he also went for Faramir, which is... I don't know why you would do that in this situation, to be honest. You definitely don't want to play through Ithilliens against Rohan, because obviously Rohan is a faction that goes, 9 times out of 10, Rohan goes really heavy on cav. So I don't think an Ithilien build is going to be particularly useful against that. But yeah, so Halfhand kind of notices that he doesn't really have anything to defend this attack, so pulls his army back. So yeah, I don't really understand the purchase of Faramir over here, to be quite honest with you. He's a good hero by himself, even if you don't go with Ithilien, especially if you get him leveled up to Wounding Arrow to control, to have something to deal with enemy heroes. But I think in this situation when you've got like your eco isn't like it's all right, it's not bad, but like I don't know. I feel like he'd be much better off first going for, first of all, purchasing fortress banners if you're going to get hero, to get that discount rolling. Starting with Forlong, switching to Losarnak, because Losarnak would deal with this clump of peasants as well as pikemen quite effectively. Then adding Boromir maybe, and then situationally adding some other heroes. But we can see that. Okay, so first thing I'd like to mention from Isirion's side of things here is that he did not go for Eowyn at all. He's playing through a different strategy, and he's gone for Theodred over here, which is very interesting. This is a hero that you don't really see often, but he can be really crucial, especially against factions that rely heavy on heroes, I would say, because he buffs the... Well, first of all, he gives, if you level him up to, level 5, he gives plus 35 damage to all of your troops. And also 20 armor, 10 attack, speed and health regen to your heroes, which is big. That's really big for the hero Rohan hero squad to deal with Gondor heroes. That's quite big. So yeah, good choice. I would say definitely a good choice for Isirion over here. So Halfhand is using the Trebuchet, or rather Numenorian Engineering over here, to try to take down this level 3 farm, as well as the archery range. But we can see that Isirion has access to... So, okay, so Halfhand has tier 1, tier 2, plus 4 power points, and they're very even. They're basically even. Because Isirion has tier 1, 2, as well as the same for power points. He did use Horn of the Westfold, which is the best buff in the game, 60-60 stats, and yeah, really big engagement over here. He's also got Elmer on the field. I did not notice this. Auto casting spear throw, a little bit questionable, I would say, but I guess it would work here so far, since you're not really you don't have Elwyn yet, so Elmer alone can't really deal with heroes only through his spear throw. So yeah, really, I would say this was a really back and forth engagement. At some point, I was looking at it and thinking Rohan would win and then Gondor would win, but yeah. So Halfhand, yeah, he went for skilled healers to save his heroes, and Theodred has activated his Lack of Battle buff, and Theodred needs to be careful. Theodred dies, but takes Boromir with him to the grave. That was a great engagement over here. Both died with their last stand for their country. So yeah, so Elfhelm already has access to his leadership. So Elfhelm's leadership for 8-2 was made accessible sooner. I believe it used to be on level 9, and now it's on level 7, which is a really good buff. It makes him that much more useful. But yeah, so Mary is at level 10 right now, and after level 7 he unlocks his minus 33 debuff on heroes, which can come in really handy. Isirion needs to take away these Rohirric riders, not to feed them. He can replenish them near the well. And he mounts Eomer right now and tries to take down Baragon. I believe he will be successful. There's not much Baragon can do here. And there we go. We see Mary debuff value over there. And Eomer is already level 5, which means he has access to, after level 3 he has access to, like a pillage ability, permanent, which means that after killing enemy units or resource buildings, you get some amount of money in return, kind of like a bounty value. So yeah, quite interesting game so far, I would say. And I would also like to mention just how important Eomer is to Rohan gameplay. Getting him leveled up to, especially this ability, Thirst of Good Wine, which can control both army stacks as well as heroes. Yeah, that's very important. And if he manages to revive Theodred, Theodred will buff Eomer with a bunch of stats, so he will become that much more powerful. But yeah, so let's see what Halfhand is responding to, because he lost, I think he lost all of his heroes over there 3 of them, Boromir, Baragon, as well as Faramir. And he also lost basically all of his army. Yeah, he's on 120, and that's just literally these 2 battalions, and that's it. On the other hand, Isirion doesn't really have, you know, a big army either, but definitely a lot more. He's got cavalry, 2 battalions of them, and his revived Theodred, which is great. And Theodred has access to his hero buff, and we can see that by Eomer's, like, this little green glow underneath. He divides these 2, you know, groups to harass quicker, which is a great thing to do. Definitely recommended. But yeah, he's gonna lose this farm, but that's not really a big deal for him. This group probably won't be able to escape with this many archers and Elfhelm focusing them down. But yeah, this is really a tough spot to be in for Halfhand because he doesn't really have much to deal with this cap. Even if he goes for Anorians, you know, Rohirrim supported by Eomer, or this group supported by Theodred will absolutely wreck them. So doesn't really have that many options of dealing with this cav except for running around with pikes and trying to, you know, trying to chase them basically. So yeah, he does stun them with Boromir, so this battalion might go down. And this one is being miscontrolled a little. Yeah, Theodred can take down the farm by himself, which is exactly what he does. Gets level 6. And this battalion dies, but that's not much of a big deal. And this is when Rohan gets that big power spike. It's from the bountiful harvest. So to talk a little about Rohan's economy issues. So since you need to have farms not only for you know, economic value, but also for production, and the production farms get counted towards your inflation, that means that your eco starts taking quite a big hit once you have a couple of farms purely for production, not giving you much resources, if at all. So few options to kind of offset that is building wells. You know, Rohan wells, obviously they cost a little more expensive. They cost 350 instead of the normal usual 300. But they also they give you a 15% buff, I believe. Correct me on this if I'm wrong. To your farms, and that happens in a pretty big radius, generally speaking. So this well alone would buff these 3 farms, even if this one wasn't present. So yeah, that's one of the options, and the other option is obviously the tier 3 bountiful harvest, which gives 30% resources from all farms and windmills. 30%. That's huge. And that's an ability that you cannot cancel anyhow, because it affects all farms. Even if the opponent loses some of the farms, it's still gonna work on the remaining ones. So you can't really counter this in any way whatsoever. And as we can see, like, Isirion is absolutely cash floating right now. He's trying to spend those resources, but yeah, and ooh, that's risky, man. I mean, if he goes for Ministry with archers, then that's fine. That's all right. But if he goes for Ithilliens, and I wouldn't even build, but he's just trying to go for Ithilliens. I wouldn't really build many Ministry here either. Just, you know, just a couple of battalions, and so that you're not like completely kited by your opponent. But more than that, not really. So Hoffman successfully defended this attack from Isirion while I was blabbering about Rohan's economy issues. So he's got Faramir level 4. He's got the leadership, which grants these guys range as well as damage, I believe. Let's see. Here it is. Armor damage as well as range. Yeah. So 15, 15, 15. With this leadership, Ithillian Rangers is, I believe, the archer unit with the most range in the game. But yeah, this army that Isirion also has Theoden on the field. But this army definitely cannot take on this one. This one is supported by multiple buffs and leaderships. We've got Elfhelm over here with this leadership, which grants 15 attack range damage to infantry, kind of. And we've got Theoden with his 50% armor. We've got Theodred with his 30%, 35% buff, you know, damage. And yeah, and we've also got two Rohirric Onagers. How often would you see this? And this ability, Hay Bale, can be quite useful, I would say, especially in this type of clumped gameplay, when it's not kind of spread out all over the map, but the engagements are kind of in one spot on the map. And look at that, just by the Hay Bale ability, kind of burning the area, this level 2 barracks is probably not gonna go down, but, well, actually it might. That's quite useful. But yeah, so a big engagement over here. Then another Hay Bale is launched upon the Ithilliens. A really good choice over there. But let's see what's happening here. Boromir dies right after using his Horn of Gondor ability. Well, I mean, obviously he would die because Rohan has almost his entire hero squad out, with the exception of Eowyn. Eomer has Thirst of Guthwine. He's just like in a rage, trying to kill as many Gondorians as he can. The Rohirric Onagers are destroying Halfhand's barracks, and it's not looking good for him. And these Ithilien Rangers aren't really accomplishing anything. Although Isirion runs his cavalry straight into Minas Tirith pikes, and Theoden is about to die, but Isirion is quite careful with him, pulls him back, uses his healing ability. The Rangers use a long shot, which almost kills the archers, human archers, but not really. And Eomer is going in, trying to kill the Ithilliens with his splash through Thirst of Guthwine, but pulls back not to lose him. I would say that's a smart choice because he would be under fortress fire as well, and as we know, structural arrows deal quite a lot of damage to heroes. But right now, so Erkenbrand even has ability to his access to his leadership. So right now, I would say that Rohan is definitely in a better spot. He's got his heroes leveled. He's got Theoden. He's got his almost entire hero squad with the exception of Eowyn. And as we can see, so in terms of economy and power points, Isirion has 850 and like 500 limit, tier 3 plus 14 power points. On the other hand, we've got Halfhand with 750, almost 400, or rather 350, tier 3 and 4. Four power points on top of it, but he's also gone for a skilled healer, so one tier 1 more. So if he hadn't gone with this, he would have 9, but still he's losing by about 5 power points. And if Isirion does not divert from his spellbook acquisition path, he's gonna have access to the last march of the Ents. But yeah, so yeah, I would say this is like a really interesting kind of like X and O's thing, because you see when you build Pin of Gillen in the beginning against Rohan, and he counters it with Elfhelm, and you stop building them, and you don't go for Minas Tirith Knights, the Rohan player usually starts thinking that you're not gonna continue building Cav, because it's just gonna be countered pretty easily. But then you've got Swan Knights, and Swan Knights are very, very powerful, and also the farm discount applies to them, so you can purchase them with 1,050 resources, I believe. Ordinarily, without the discount, they cost somewhere around 1,400. But this is hugely powerful cavalry. It's like elite cavalry, and it has really good stats, really good damage and armor. It also auto heals, and on top of that, it receives leadership from Imrahil. And over here, we can see that Isirion has quite literally 0 pikes. He does have his first battalion of Kingsguard out, though. But over here, he can stack so much armor. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. So let's see how that works. So as you can see, the Westfolders definitely don't die from the first trample. So he activated Eomer's Last Stand ability, which grants in this circle area 33 stats. But he's also, on top of that, on Westfolders, he's got 33 armor from Erkenbrand. Westfolders themselves can activate a formation ability, which gives them armor as well as defensive stance. And if that's not enough, he can also he also has access to Theoden's 50% armor leadership over here. So yeah, so Halfhand does manage to take down the Rohirric Onagers. I believe, yes, Halfhand has gone for Botkin arrows, and these Swan Knights, despite all of those buffs, take a really good trample over here, or rather, they make a really good trample. The Westfolders are the one taking the trample. Um, but yeah, he does kind of does manage to defend here, but his heroes are absolutely wrecking this Ithillian Ranger stack over here. Faramir is requiring 8 somewhere, although I can't see where, so here he is. And we've got Last March of the Ents. Does Isirion have anything to deal with this? I don't think Swan Knights can really do much to Ents. Ents can just switch to melee mode and knock back the Swan Knight, so this might be GG. He does have access to rebuild, but is that gonna be enough? I think that's just gonna kind of like delay, but not really save him. Um, he is cash floating a lot though, like a whole lot. He would have access to LSR's summon in 3 power points, but in order to save his fortress, he would need to invest 5 more for the rebuild, so that would set him back even more. I'm pretty sure this is GG. And let's see, so the Rohan Hero Squad. Does Mirror give them any leadership, by the way? I've forgotten that. Let's see. Okay, so 33% more experience. Okay. Farmer dies over here. Yeah, that's definitely GG. Swan Knights can't really do much with this. Elmer is level probably like 10 at that point. So yeah, that was a really interesting game. From Rohan's perspective, it showcased 2 things, primarily. Theodred value, first of all, and also Rohirric Onager value. That was interesting to see. I don't think I've seen Onagers in quite a long while. From Gondor's perspective, I would say it kind of confirmed the thing that I said in the beginning of the game, which is that Ithilliens is probably not the way to go in this matchup. And that Faramir purchase and also losing heroes in one of those mid-game engagements really set Halfhand back. And a few pointers I would give is that having a market a little earlier would be good. If you're going to purchase 3 heroes in the mid-game, definitely upgrading the banners on the fortress is a good idea. And against Rohan, I would probably not tech up too early because tribal, I want to say tribal, but not tribal, but rather Fiefdom units supported by Forlong or Denethor and or Boromir can be quite effective, can take you really far, so you don't really need to tech up to Ithilliens. I mean, you don't need to tech up to Ithilliens at all, I would say. If the game kind of goes on after the 20th minute, then I would tech up to Minas Tirith. I think Minas Tirith are perfectly capable of holding on to, holding their ground against Rohan. Swan Knights is good. I think Swan Knights is, it creates lots of problems for Rohan. They need kind of Eomer as well as Kingsguard, or Eomer with maybe the Snowborn Riders to counter it. But yeah, that was an interesting game, and really, one last thing I would like to mention is that it really shows the value of Bountiful Harvest, which is a tier 3, spellbook option for Rohan, and we saw just how much money Isirion had, and how many heroes he was able to churn out and not lose them. So that was good, and Isirion's part microing them well. I think he lost only Theodred once, and that's it. So yeah, really interesting match. Well played to both players, and I'll see you guys in the next one.